Welcome to Bentonville, Arkansas, about 200 miles outside of Little Rock. And this was the longtime home of Sam Walton, that retail giant who built the conglomerate that we now know as Walmart. And we have a fabulous collection of automobiles and trucks that people have never seen before. So that's why we want to share with you the Jack Shewmaker Collection. And here I am with Rutledge Wood, Chris Jacobs, and I'm Bill Stevens. Who is this?
Oh, this is Dan Shewmaker, son of Jack Shewmaker, whose collection we're checking out now as a custodian. Dan, tell us a little bit about some of the history and how your dad came to love the cars and trucks that he did.
About 1994, 95, Dad got the bug to acquire the first vehicle that he couldn't have when he was growing up. Dad grew up as a teenager in the 50s. My grandfather Shewmaker was a Chrysler Plymouth dealer, Dodge dealer in a small town up in Buffalo, Missouri. And so he was enamored by the big reveals and all the things. And when he had the opportunity, he started acquiring those cars that he could never have when he was growing up. And I've been along with my dad through this whole journey. He was very focused on mainstream American cars. He wanted to show people what you could buy at your local dealership. But the side note to that is that my parents grew up in rural Missouri, and the pickup truck was kind of the mainstream vehicle of the time. So he started collecting pickup trucks. And we found out that that was pretty difficult to do because not many people cared for him like they did the Sunday driver. As we did that, the affinity for the pickup grew and grew, and we expanded the collection more and more. And he was looking for those that he remembered that were unique and something that would fill the gaps, that would tell the story of that era of cars.
Well, we love hearing about them, Dan, but can we check them out?
Let's do it.
Let's begin a little tour here at the Jack Shewmaker Collection with his 1927 Chevrolet AA utility truck. Now, this was a technological tour de force in 1927. His first year for a floor-mounted accelerator, an in-dash fuel gauge, and the rear-view mirror. But Dan, that's not the big story. It's how your dad acquired this truck.
Well, we had a good friend that said, I got this grain truck, and we have a family ranch here as well. And he said, man, you got to get this thing. It's an original owner, one family out of North Carolina. He even went as far as putting our logo on the side to seal the deal. But I think what Dad really appreciated the fact is it's all original. We just had to do some cosmetic work with the paint, and it fit right in the collection.
Now, Dan, I know your dad really was so monumental in Walmart's growth. One of my favorite things is knowing that he was the guy that coined the term everyday low prices. But when I look around this collection, I have to wonder, like, was your dad paying low prices? Because everything that I see is incredibly nice.
Well, from his retail background, he was a fierce negotiator, and he didn't want to pay a penny more than he had to. So if you entered into negotiations with Jack Shewmaker, you just better be prepared. But he appreciated value for what things were, and he would pay for something that was of value.
Is it true that this was purchased from the original family that bought it brand new?
Yes.
I mean, you think about the miles and the history just in one vehicle of this collection. So impressive.
Yeah, and you talk about history. I mean, just looking at this bed, if this is in fact the original wood, that makes that wood almost 100 years old and still fully functional.
Well, now we're going to move the clock ahead about 10 years and look at two Ford pickup trucks. These trucks were pretty important in the history of the Ford pickup truck. In 1937, the pickup trucks began looking more like cars. We're going to talk about that again later with another pickup we're about to see. But how did your dad come by owning two of these?
Dad was always looking for cars, and word of mouth auctions sometimes, but he was reading the paper and saw the one ads that there was a 37 pickup for sale in Grove, Oklahoma, not far from here. And he took John Garrett with him, one of our curators that helps us keep everything alive and well, to go see a guy named Don Bailey. Come to find out, Bailey had bought it new originally.
Wow.
And had owned it his entire life. And when they got to talking about it and so forth, Dad was just so enamored and just so, gushing over this pickup truck. Bailey looks at him and goes, "Yeah, you love this one? I know where there's another one." My brother bought one the same day at the same dealership, and he still has it. And he gave him the number, and we called his brother and went up to Kansas City where he lived and bought this truck. And that's why we have two 37s.
Unbelievable. So these two trucks right here were sold within a day of each other from the same dealership.
Same day, same dealership.
Same day, same
Two
dealership.
brothers, kept them their entire life.
And now they've been
And then
reunited.
we brought them here.
That's insane.
It is.
That never happens. But that somehow happened here, and your dad found that.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Now, other than the color, are they identical?
One has a metal bed and one has a wood bed, and those were options in the day. And yes, otherwise they're identical.
So now we're in a part of the collection where we've got some military vehicles. Dan, what was it about these? We see this is a 42 Ford. We've got a 53 Dodge Power Wagon over here. There's a 53 Willys. What was it about some of these vehicles that really caught your dad's eye?
Well, I told you we were trying to kind of encompass the whole era of mainstream vehicles, but during World War II, from 41 to 45, you couldn't buy a pickup truck from a dealership in the United States, but Dad still wanted one. And so we came across this 42 Ford, which was actually an Army Air Corps pickup, purchased and used down in San Antonio at one of the air bases to shuttle pilots back and forth on the flight line. And it fills a gap in the truck lineage that we didn't have. And then that kind of brought on, well, if we got World War II, what about Korea, which is the Dodge Power Wagon? And Dad always had an affinity for Willys Jeep, and the Willys was infamous in the military terms, and so that's where that one comes from too.
There are three great historical placeholders as well, because you were saying earlier how this whole fleet of pickup trucks really encompasses the whole lineage of history. It's fitting that these early 40s trucks are military vehicles. Well, Dan, your father, Jack, loved to collect Chevys and Fords, mainly because they were easier to acquire. But your grandfather, being a Chrysler Plymouth Dodge dealer, your dad had to add some Mopar to the collection to represent.
Absolutely. It filled a void of the makers that were available at the time. And Dad really appreciated the pre-merger Dodge and Chryslers and so forth. And this one fits that bill. And we also know the 40's a rare vehicle, especially in the Dodge.
Yeah, rare and unusual. At the time in 1940, Dodge was actually manufacturing 20 different chassis. The combinations that you could get were unimaginable as far as wheelbase goes and power goes and all of the different options you could get of these trucks. Bill, I mean, this one truck really represents so many different varieties.
Yeah, even the body styles too, Chris. This was a time when the pickup truck had to appeal to a multitude of audiences out there. Remember, by 1940, there was a great pickup truck war going on between Chevy and Ford and Dodge, and also Studebaker was in the hunt as well. So if you had versatility, plus the Dodges were so rugged and dependable, you knew you were going to sell some. But this is a rare truck. We hardly ever see these when we have a Mecum auction with all the pickup trucks that we've seen. This is probably one of a kind.
Yeah, and you mentioned rugged, and that's why they actually called these trucks job rated, so people knew that they were going to be reliable for whatever job they wanted to accomplish.
As I look around this collection, Dan, I'm so curious to know, what was it like being around your dad in this time when he says, okay, I'm retired, I love cars, let's just dive in, and I'm going to build this whole collection. What was that like? Because everywhere you turn, there's something new and different and unique.
Well, being a retail executive, he was kind of a type A personality. And so he'd go, hey, I think I want a 40 Dodge. Dan, let's go find one. And I should have some answers by the end of the day, or he was not too happy about it. So at times it was challenging, because you just can't go down to the local Walmart and buy a 40 Dodge in these days.
Sure.
But his demand was to do things quickly and stay focused. And we did. And that shows, I think, in the holes we filled with neat pickups like this.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for Dodge lovers like myself, this isn't the only Dodge in the collection. Well, from 1940, we fast forward almost 2 decades to 1957. A lot of people have heard of the Swept line. Well, what preceded the Swept line was the Sweptside, and that's what this one is, Dan. Very cool, very unique pickup truck.
Yeah, you put fins on it, and I guess that's the idea to sell it. But you know, the 55 through 58 Chevy Cameos were really the big thing, the fiberglass side beds with fins. This was Dodge's answer to that, and they only sold a few hundred because it was too expensive and it just wasn't what people were really looking for. But Dodge didn't get the memo that the Cameos were kind of going out of the way. But it makes it rare, and it makes it very unique.
And this was such an important time with Cameo, with this truck. You know, before that, trucks had been so utilitarian, but someone was like, hey, what if we make it fancy? What if we make it seem like a Bel Air coupe, but in a truck? And that's really where you see these amazing styling cues. What I love about this era, especially for Dodge, like if you look at the headlights and how everyone else was going so sort of circular and Art Deco, and they're like, you know, let's just flatten it off on the bottom and then give it a hoop. Like little touches made this one so different.
Yeah, a dynamic time for pickup trucks in the 1950s. Now, Virgil Exner was a Chrysler, and he had debuted the forward look. So the automobiles had the fins, they had the chrome, they had all of that extra gingerbread that Mopar before that really hadn't taken advantage of. You see the rear fenders there, right from a Dodge station wagon. You see the wraparound windshield, the wraparound rear window. These trucks had automatic transmissions that were push-button operated right from the automobiles. And you have a 6 or a V8, so they had power, they had style, but as you say, not big sales successes because the price point was a little high for what people wanted pickup trucks for. They were utilitarian, they weren't styling exercises.
Yeah, they called that high visibility cab the pilot house. Maybe a little reference back to the aerospace industry. Always making its mark in the automotive industry.
Dan, on behalf of these guys and myself, thank you so much for sharing this collection with us.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, we wanted to share a part of this with everybody. We're going to keep a good part, and the Jack Shewmaker Collection will be alive and well for many more years. But it's a rare opportunity, I think, to have the ability to buy some of the Jack Shewmaker Collection, and we're really excited about offering it to the public.
And besides the trucks that we've shown you, there is an incredible variety of trucks we didn't have time to show you. A pickup truck from Hudson, maybe from Bantam, maybe one you've never even seen before. All coming to Dallas-Fort Worth and selling at no reserve, October 29th through November 1st. And if you can't be there with us, you can watch us live, streaming on ESPN+.